It's Pierce again with Light and Done. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know by now that I love to push the limits of Clean Armor and challenge some of the general wisdom out there on the internet about how to use this product. When it comes to hand applying Clean Armor, everybody has their own preferred method, including this guy. I made an entire video with my 4 favorite applicators, which still holds true today, but I need to add another method that I'm about to show you. As some of you might know about my woodworking background, I have had extensive experience with commercially applied UV coatings using a roll line. This was my introduction to the world of UV. Fast forward to now, and here I am selling Clean Armor and trying to leverage my knowledge of industrial UV roll coatings to the homeowner and small shop owner. I was thinking to myself, how can I apply a perfectly metered film thickness to a surface at the same time as eliminating almost all of my application marks? This right here is the answer. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. What I wanted to do was recreate the round industrial roller, but in your hand. All this applicator consists of is a 1-inch piece of PVC and a lint-free cloth wrapped around it. That's it. Costs almost nothing, can be expanded or reduced to fit the size of your needs, and makes the best finish for flat surfaces that I have seen to date. I just chamfered the edges of this pipe here just to make sure there are no sharp edges, so pretty basic. It's about 6 inches long. I want to dive a bit deeper into some of the techniques I have learned from this new applicator. For starters, the pipe is rigid and perfectly flat. That means no ridge lines where bristles from a brush or a stain pad applicator can pile the finish up and leave ridges. This pipe provides a perfectly flat surface, just like a roll coater. You can also add as little or as much pressure as you want to achieve the best finish for your type of Clean Armor you're using. In my case, when I'm doing restaurant tables, I want to push the finish deep into the open grain. As I'm working in the finish, I'm really pushing hard on the surface to get that finish deep. I'm also using a lot less Clean Armor because I'm metering it so well. All of the extra gets scraped back off into the cup for use later. Since we can moderate the pressure of our own applicator, we can also meter our own film thickness. The harder you push, the thinner the film thickness. With a softer touch, you can add film depth. I love the aspect of this because it allows you to determine the film thickness with a simple pressure change. When I'm pressing hard and really focusing on getting a thin coat, I'm consistently achieving a 1 mil coat across the entire table with very little effort. For those of you who don't know, when we say 1 mil, we're saying 1/1000th of an inch. Now let's get to one of the best parts of applying it this way, and that is the lack of sanding. I still have yet to meet a woodworker that says they like sanding. In my opinion, it's the worst aspect of these projects, and if I can reduce it at all, I will. By applying Clean Armor in this new way, you're creating an ultra smooth surface. The finer the application, the less sanding you'll need to do to get a perfectly flat surface. Will this application method be glass smooth? No, but it's good enough for my eye, and it saves me a ton of labor and money. I have found that when applying very thin coats this way, the final coat is good enough for me, and I have a very critical eye. I'm going to be including one of these new applicators in my kit for sale on my website, along with one of these lint-free cloths so that you can replicate this exact finish at home. All right, today I'm going to be using some Clean Armor 700, unadulterated. I have not put any sort of alcohol in this or anything to thin it down. And let's get to our first application. It's going to take just a little bit because we need to saturate this applicator just a little bit. So I think I have a total of 2 ounces in here today. All right, there we are. That's 1 mil of wet thickness. And we're gonna hit the cure here. All right, we're all cured up now. You can see it is really hard. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna sand with 500 in between, and we're gonna see exactly where those ridge lines are. And they'll be very apparent because they'll be white, whereas the low areas will not be white. They'll be the color of this as it is right now. And you're gonna see that by doing it this way with this pipe method, that there's a lot less highs and lows and that we're able to get this all white very quickly. All right, there you go. Here's a prime instance where you can see right here's that line. That's just a little bit higher than everything else around it, which is why it's more white. Same with this little line right here. But you can notice here that all this, everything in here, it's all just white. That means that that finish was applied perfectly. So when I sanded it sanded it all down to the same level. So we're gonna keep sanding this until we get all the rest of these little marks out, which should only take another couple seconds. Again, like I said, I hate sanding, so we're gonna do this quickly. All right, the only time I use a microfiber cloth in my shop is when I tack off stuff between coats. I never use it on raw wood because it raises the fibers, makes little catches. But you'll be able to see here very quickly. So there's a couple little areas in here that didn't get all the way down. I can't even feel them, and the second coat is going to cover all of this. So we're ready for our second coat. Let's get on to it. Now when I'm applying this second coat, my applicator pad is already saturated. I only put just a little tiny puddle in there. I can always add more, but scraping it back off after this gets on the applicator, you know, I've been scraping it off like this, it's just easier to put it on just a little bit at a time. And since the wood is already saturated, there's no point, because it's going to take very little of this finish. Again, it doesn't really matter which way you go, crossways, cross grain, it doesn't really matter. What matters is our final strokes and getting it looking good at the very end. Just get this down there, just get it applied. You can see that just that little tiny puddle in what was left on my applicator, more than good enough for this last coat. This clean armor really goes a really long way. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pushing really hard. I'm trying to push this down into the grain because this is my last coat. I'm not doing anything more than 2 coats. This will be more than enough finish. And I don't see any brush strokes coming off of this. Again, you can see I'm piling up that finish right there on the leading edge as I'm pushing really hard. I'm actually going to take just a little bit of that off. I'm going to go a little harder here. Again, that's about a 1 mil thickness. You can barely determine the fact that there's anything on there. Just enough. All right, so there's that second coat. I haven't cured it yet. You can really get a sense for the open grain that we're able to achieve still with this, with virtually no brush strokes whatsoever. It really looks great. It's my new favorite technique for applying clean armor. Give you a close-up here of what the applicator looks like after a couple of rounds. Still holds up pretty good. You can always turn the rag inside out and try the other side if you want. But really great applicator. Really great method. Well, there you have it. 2 coats of super durable Clean Armor 700 with no brush strokes at all. Check out that open grain look. What more can you ask for? If you're interested in purchasing Clean Armor from a woodworker that uses this product daily on their own products and is an expert in its application, head over to the Light and Done website, link below. Don't forget to subscribe, and happy woodworking.